Why Tadatmya?
I know Tadatmya may not be the most famous Sanskrit word in the Gaudiya glossary, but I think it's one of the most important terms we need to become familiar with. And so even if we don't know the word, then we have a great chance now to learn what Tadatmya means. And so apart from the fact that it sounds beautifully, at least to my ears, we decided to use this word especially because of its deep meaning and the implications of that meaning. As I always like to say in Radical Personalism, we try to play out the implications of everything. So, what's the meaning of Tadatmya? As with every Sanskrit term, Tadatmya can have multiple meanings, but in essence, it refers to the quality of identifying ourselves with other person's nature or situation or necessities. So I like to basically define Tadatmya as empathy, or more precisely, mystical empathy. Mm. So why mystical empathy? Because again, Tadatmya can be translated as oneness in nature, or oneness in mood, or oneness of heart, one in quality, and so on. So a classical example in this regard is the analogy that is given in the scriptures of the iron rod put into the fire. Mm. So if you put iron enough into the fire, the iron acquires the qualities of the fire. It becomes tadatmika, or attains tadatmya with the fire, although it remains being an iron rod and the fire remains being fire. Mm. So in that sense, the word tadatmya applies. The iron rod attains tadatmya with the fire. It's not oneness. No, the iron rod doesn't become one with the fire in every sense of the term. It becomes attains sameness. So to say oneness in the dynamic oneness. It's a dynamic union where each part remains what they are, who they are, plus some extra addition by identification with the other. No? So the iron rod remains iron rod, but now it adds the quality of the fire by identification, by merging on, in one sense with the fire, not merging in an impersonal way, but by way of identification. And this is described also in Jiva Goswami's commentary to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 131. He gives this example and he describes how the Jiva Shakti, the souls, attain Tadatmya with bhakti, with the Sarup Shakti, giving the iron fire example. And in fact, he evokes the term tadatmya here, or sameness, instead of aikatva or ekatva in Sanskrit, which means complete oneness. So tadatmya can refer to many things. One of them in this connection, how bhakti, devotion, love, operates in our lives as jivas, which is an important consideration to begin with. How bhakti operates in our life, tadatmya is a word to define that. So you can start to glimpse how important the word tadatmya is for us bhaktas. In fact, the word tadatmya appears in the Srimad Bhagavatam in many places, especially in chapter 30 of the 10th canto, one of the 5 chapters dealing with the Rasa Lila. In particular, in that chapter, it is described how the gopis became tadatmik, which means attained tadatmya, with Sri Krishna during the Rasa Lila. When Krishna disappears from the Rasa Lila, and in the madness of separation from Krishna, the gopis fully identify with him. So many verses there. I won't torture you now with the quotes where the term tadatmya is invoked in this particular chapter. And also that say tadatmya has many other applications, many other meanings in connection to the idea of mystical empathy or oneness in heart, which are also crucial to why we chose this name, why we chose this term. So let me share a few of these examples. Each of them deserve a separate presentation altogether, but I'll briefly touch upon them. For example, tadatmya as empathy can refer to how we should relate to one another as souls, as human beings, as pilgrims in this journey, how we should relate to one another with empathy. In other words, learning to listen to one another, to really listen to each other, to be fully present, to be unconditionally accepting each other, and in this way being able to enter the other person's shoes, the other person's world, while listening, while being present, while accepting each other, instead of remaining isolated and self-centered in our own judgments and conceptions of things. So that's Tadatmya. Oneness of heart, oneness of mood, entering into the other person and really being there, listening and accepting unconditionally. So that's the first one level of application among each other. Tadatmya also can refer to the guru-disciple relationship. We could say when the disciple fully identifies himself, herself, with the guru's desire, with the guru's instruction, with the guru's mood, inner mood, and the disciple chooses to dedicate himself, herself to that which he has or she has identified. So this surrender, this complete dedication to the heart of Sri Guru is called also Tadatmya. And like I always like to mention, the guru similarly reciprocates in kind. It's not just one-way street. So also the guru will, accordingly to his or her role, will dedicate himself, herself to the disciple in a corresponding form of Tadatmya. So if we pay attention, as you will see with all these examples, every ideal form of interaction includes some form of Tadatmya. So it's a crucial aspect of any healthy, ideal relationship. So that's another application of Tadatmya, not only between peers, so to say, but between guru and disciple. And also it kind of applies Tadatmya to our connection with God. In our connection with the sweet absolute, Tadatmya, of course, also applies, not only in consideration of leaving aside our separate interests and fully identifying with Krishna's will. Of course, that's also Tadatmya. What does he want for me? And trying to identify that. But also here, especially Tadatmya, we could say refers to the fact that one has no separate existence from the object of my affection. I do not exist separately, in an isolated way. Indeed, we have no separate existence. Everything is interconnected, sambandha. So in that sense, Tadatmya. Our material minds and senses can be all tadatmic, can all attain Tadatmya in empathy or in alignment with God's will, or if you will, with the transcendental realm. This is another meaning of Tadatmya in connection to the soul and God. Of course, in our particular Gaudiya tradition, even more specifically and regarding in connection with the ultimate gift that Sriman Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Dev came to give to the world, which is known as Radha Dasyan, the unique service to Srimati Radharani, Tadatmya appears there again in another form, in another layer of expression, in relation to how the manjaris of the young gopis are absolutely identified with Sri Radha's heart, Tadatmya, with Sri Radha's mood, with Sri Radha's Radha Krishna's need of the moment, need of service, to the point that whatever she is experiencing becomes suddenly reflected in the manjaris' bodies, minds, and hearts. And they are totally willing to sacrifice everything to give themselves in that Tadatmya. So again, here Tadatmya refers to the empathy or the full identification with the object of one's service. What Srila Siddhar Maharaj will lovely define as self-forgetfulness in divine love. Tadatmya. And finally, after all these different layers or ways of expressing Tadatmya, and of course there are so many more in between, we already talked about Tadatmya between us as humans, between Guru and disciple, between us and God, more specifically between Manjaris and Sri Radha. But what about Tadatmya between God and God? So in that case, we can speak about the ultimate Tadatmya, which is not between, again, only limited to two human people empathizing with one another, nor between Guru and disciple, nor between us and God, but between God and God, between Radha and Krishna, one soul in two bodies. So by this we refer to the ultimate Tadatmya, which is exhibited by God himself, Sri Krishna, Bhagavan, when he identifies, when he becomes the empathic God, as a friend of mine will like to put it. When Krishna identifies fully with Sri Radha's heart, with Radha Bhav, and he tries to pursue that experience, the experience of her heart. So he becomes Tadatmic. He identifies with that. He becomes one in heart, one in mood. And in this way, Krishna attains Tadatmya with Radha's heart in the divine supreme form of Sri Gaur Sundar. So in one sense, Tadatmya can be a name of Mahaprabhu, the ultimate mystical empathy. And since most Gaudiya groups or Sanghas or communities, and this group also we are calling Tadatmya, but by extension it can naturally be called Tadatmya Sangha, since Sangha means community with H, Sangha. So since most Gaudiya Sanghas include Mahaprabhu's name in their own name, as you may know, Sri Chaitanya Mat, Sri Chaitanya Gaudiya Mat, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mission, and so on and so forth. And since the name of Mahaprabhu is generally present in every Gaudiya group, family, Sangha, however you may like to call it, then our devotional alliance, Tadatmya, also includes Mahaprabhu's name in it, in the form of Tadatmya, which can be a name of Mahaprabhu, implying the very essence of what Mahaprabhu is about, his inner experience. So, these are some words about the meaning of Tadatmya.